Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our Survivors page here tonight. For those of you that don't know what Survivors is, we are a nonprofit 501c3 who focuses on being able to help those who have lost a loved one be able to find service as a way of healing in memory of them. So we like to say that we serve to survive our loss, and the peace and the joy, the community that is developed, the support that we find within each other. Survivors is just a big bunch of, and the joy, the community that is developed, the support that we find within each other. Survivors is just a big bunch of, and that is developed, the support that we find within each other. I'm hearing that on my end. Develop the support that we find.
That's probably my fault.
It's okay. It's normal. Technical difficulties is what we're good at. So anyway, so what we just do is anybody that wants to do a service project in memory of their loved one, just contact us and we will, even if it's big or small, it doesn't matter. The intent is just as we pick ourselves up and start to help others, there's a peace and a joy that we're able to feel. And it's not, it's just everybody goes through their grief journey differently. But a lot of us found that when we start looking outward, we feel better. So anyway, tonight, I'm really excited. We have Brenda Donnelly Ford. She is a friend from my church community, and she is a former Indianapolis Wish anchor, and she still likes to share news as it comes on, and as she's able to on her page. So thank you all those of her followers joining us tonight. She's going to share her story of loss. She's experienced miscarriage and going through that, and infertility, the struggles and the grief that comes with all of that. And now she's been blessed with a little boy with her husband, and they're actually expecting here in 3 weeks. So super excited for her second little boy to join. But anyway, I will turn the time over to you, Brenda. Thank you for being here. We're excited to hear from you.
Thank you. Yeah, the perks of being on Zoom is you see me from the shoulders up and you can't see the big belly. That I get to cart around now for a while. But yes, thank you. Due in 3 weeks with another miracle. So we're so excited and grateful to have your support and to be a part of this organization. It's been impressive to learn about what Survivors has done, is doing, and plans to do. So I'm also glad to be talking to you on a Sunday. It means I got to take a nap today. That makes a big difference for my day. I'm a public speaker by profession, but I find that when I am super pregnant and speak, I run out of air. So my prayer today is to have the breath to share my story and be present with all of you. So yes, I'm Brenda Grace Donnelly Ford. I kept my maiden name as one of my middle names. Born and raised Hoosier from Indiana. Spent several years outside of the state for college, etc. But happy to be back in Indiana. I've got 4 parents, divorced parents who've remarried, an older brother and a younger brother. I am very active in my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was born into the church my parents joined when they were teenagers, but I was born and baptized at the age of 8. Took me 5 or 6 more years before I started going, not because mom wanted me to, but because I wanted to. And that happened because I had some prayer experiences where I was like, oh gosh, what if I've been going to this church my whole life and God tells me not to go anymore? And so I prayed and said, should I be doing this? And I felt like I should, really powerfully felt like I should be going to this church and following the path that God has for me, set up by my parents. And so ever since then, I've been super happy. I also had the opportunity to serve as a missionary for this church and share the gospel of Jesus Christ with a population of people who were non-Christian. I went to Japan and for 18 months spoke Japanese and shared messages of just general Christianity, but also the special features of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that includes things like modern revelation and a current prophet. A lot of people, though, know me as a TV news anchor. That's kind of my identity for several years now. I chose that career really early. I'm in my 30s, so I'm in the YouTube generation where YouTube came out and we all looked around like, this is incredible. You can just make videos about stuff and people will watch it, and you can just watch other people's videos. And I was fascinated with video storytelling when that came out when I was in middle school and high school. But I also wanted to do something, and this is vain, I wanted to do something intelligent with my career. I didn't want to just be a creative documentarian. I liked politics and law and community voices and public policy and even crime. And I was just interested in the news. And so I found out that there's a career out there where you can make little videos about current events and you get paid, you get paid to do it. And you get to do your hair and makeup and present it charismatically in front of a crowd and, or at least a television camera with a crowd behind it. And I loved speech team and things like that. So I chose my career early and was blessed to get my first job working for BYU Television, my university's Brigham Young University, as an editor. My boss had no idea I was 19 when he hired me, which was a blessing because I don't know if he would have. My first job as a video editor, and then I went on to do internships and small jobs in Phoenix, New York City, Salt Lake City, served my mission, and then I got a job as a morning anchor for an NBC affiliate in North Texas, and then got a job as an anchor and reporter in Indianapolis, which was the goal. So that was 10 years of a career in television news. And I got to cover the major events of the day. I mean, every major election. But when I was in New York City, we were covering Occupy Wall Street. And I was standing in Bryant Park next to a live reporter. I wasn't on camera, with like five armed security guys around us to stop the protesters from coming towards the TV news people. Like, I mean, it was intense to get to cover some of these major shapely moments for our country and the world, as well as our smaller communities. So I was blessed to get to do that. Along the way, I met and married my husband. We met in Texas. He was in medical school and I was working as an anchor in North Texas, and we got married. And then gratefully he matched for his next medical program in Indianapolis. So that's when my job switched and he switched. And we just always dreamt of a family. We both are on the same page with that. Kids were always in the plan, especially back when we thought that we could plan. You know, when you're getting married, everybody asks, how many kids do you want? And you very confidently give your answer, you know, like you have control over that. You know, we really believe that families were essential for, not essential, but and so important for lasting happiness. And so we looked at a calendar, you know, a year or so after we were married, and grinned to ourselves and started trying to have kids, and did the 9-month math and picking due dates and ended up fulfilling 12 months of high anxiety, perfectly timed, on the month negative pregnancy tests every month. And we thought, okay, 12 months in a row, that's not great. We're rookies though, you know, so like maybe we're doing something wrong. And so we started to go to my OB. We went to fertility specialists to try to see, is there something wrong with the two of us? Meanwhile, we're getting questions. How long have you guys been married? And when are you going to have kids? And do you want to have kids? And we tried to kindly answer those questions without showing that we were hurting, because everybody else seemed to get pregnant and we didn't. Even teenagers got pregnant and I couldn't. And so we received the fabulous diagnosis of unexplained infertility, which basically means nothing They couldn't find anything wrong with us, with those preliminary tests. At least they said, this should be working for you. It's not, but it should be. So that's what we have for you. Well, 2017 medicine, that's what they had for us. And so we thought, okay, well, then maybe this is God saying not the right time. That might be a pretty good indicator that this is not God's will and timing. So we kept trying, kept working, and then fielding those comments. And then I started to get the comments of, well, you're very career driven. You've got a great career, and so does your husband, and you must be really busy working at Wish TV. And that is an okay assumption. I mean, there are career driven people who will choose career over starting, a family with young kids. But my heart ached to be a mom. Several of my coworkers at Wish were moms, and I loved their example of balance and poise and grace. And my mom was a great example. My grandmother, I've got a lot of powerful women in my family, and I wanted to be a mom. Dang it. And then we had some people who were kind enough to say, it'll happen for you someday. So we tried to have faith in that. And sure enough, after a year or so of infertility and failed treatments, because we did go starting to do some treatments, we got pregnant, a positive pregnancy test. It was such a rush of relief. The IVF is the only way, or adoption is going to be the only way. All of that just evaporated overnight. I was successfully pregnant. We told our families right away. I mean, I was like 4.5 weeks pregnant, and we told our families. We even caught their faces on candid camera. We got everybody together and said, hey, let's take a group picture. And we counted to 3. And as my friend hit the shutter, we said, Brenda's pregnant. And we got everybody going, ah. And it was a lovely day. And then about 3 or 4 days later, I started having severe cramping and a lot of pain and a lot of bleeding, and went to the doctor, and there was no baby, and there was no more pregnancy. And I had to call my family and tell them that I was no longer pregnant, that my due date, which was Mother's Day, if you can believe it, was not going to be the kind of Mother's Day we thought it was going to be. And then a friend of mine said that Shia was also due on Mother's Day. So now we had a pace car, we had a little baby coming into our circle of friends who would have been our little Poppy, who we lost at just 5 weeks. You try again. 2 months later, we got pregnant again. And there's some science behind that. Apparently, after you've had a positive pregnancy test, you've got the hormones in your body to encourage another one. And so we got pregnant quickly again. And this time we waited to tell, because I was not going to make that phone call again. So just my husband and I celebrated, and we listened to the baby's heartbeat, and I had it on my phone, and I played it all the time, the recording, played it all the time. I mean, we were doing really well, and we walked around like we had the biggest, coolest secret ever, like, just wait till we tell you why we're so happy. And then I was out of state visiting my sister-in-law, because she had just had a newborn, and she had another little girl, and I was kind of helping. She's so capable, but I was trying to help take care of her little girl while she had a newborn, and the cramping started again. And between her living room, an airplane, and my OB's office, I lost our second baby, Bud, and he was about 8 weeks gestation, right around Christmas. And we heard another due date in our social group that was right on track with baby Bud. So at this point, I feel like I'm at my lowest. I failed for a year to get pregnant, and then twice in a row, I failed to carry a baby longer than 3 months. I felt like I had no tools to fix my problem. I was used to being a problem solver, and I looked around, and on social media, everybody shares their best. I just could not look at another like blushing lady with a chalk sign and her proud husband saying that they're due. And I couldn't do it internally anymore. So I started to tell people, which isn't usually the reaction, but it was for me. I started to tell people, and it wasn't easy, but I was happy to be proven wrong. People said they were sorry. They had no idea. They were open. They shared their pain. And they shared positive energy, and the loneliness of not fitting in some way, or not having what you want or what you've been promised, as a woman with the curves and that you're supposed to have a baby. And no, not always. And I got pregnant again with a bigger support group a few months later, and we were open books. We knew we needed faith and positive energy for this baby to take his first breath. And at 9 weeks, we lost baby Bo and his super strong, beautiful heartbeat. He stopped beating his heart, and we had to go in and actually surgically complete that miscarriage. And the day before, a woman in my church left me a pot of yellow roses on my doorstep. She didn't know I was going to go in the next day to have a surgical miscarriage removal, but God must have told her we really needed that help and support. That was in the spring of that year. And we took several months to grieve, and I started going to therapy and work out in my mind a reality where I wasn't a mother. We weren't happy with that, but we were going to be happy with what we had. And then I got pregnant again that fall, and we were not excited. We were terrified and anxious. But we had learned a new perspective on faith, not faith in, I want this baby to live, but faith that God has a plan and we've got his support. He's not doing this to us or letting this happen. He's helping us. We carried that baby 40 weeks and 2 days, and Cedric was born. After quite a bit of medical help, I ended up having to take a shot in my, like a syringe shot in my belly, like every day of the pregnancy to try to maintain it and keep my stats okay to carry him. But we did. We carried, we called him Cub, Cedric, all the way to birth, and he is almost 2 now. And I shared my pregnancy announcement on my social media pages with him when we were like halfway through the 2nd trimester, and I couldn't hide it anymore on TV. And I knew we still might lose him, but the hope that he had given me and the lessons that he had given me just as a fetus, I thought, well, this is worth sharing, even if we do lose him. And oh my gosh, guys, the thousands of comments and prayers and kindness from people who just watched me on TV, or people who knew of me, or people who were grateful that I was sharing a story about miscarriages was overwhelming. I have a Word document on my computer called For Cub, and my son Cedric will read it someday. And it's a snippet of some of my favorite comments that people made on my social posts about getting pregnant again. That post that I made sharing my story and his ultrasound picture reached 1 million people on Facebook, according to their analytics. And I had friends come to me and say, yeah, I saw your post. And then my friend who you don't know shared it with me. And then I was on this Facebook group and somebody also shared it there. Like, it was reaching groups of people that I had never thought it would. But my goal was to not let anyone feel alone with infertility, infant loss, singlehood, or you're managing a large, healthy family. There's trials with that too. So some commenters said they were surprised that I had such pain in my life because I have it all. I was a TV anchor, right? I seemed so happy. But the first truth about happy people, which I guess is the topic of this speaking opportunity that I have, is that the first truth about happy people is that they all have unhappy things in their life. Just because they're happy doesn't mean everything about their life is happy. But they manage it. They have one of those really good perspectives. Like, my husband's one of these people who just always has a good perspective. It's almost annoying, when he just has like, not like one of those eternal optimists, but just a good perspective on it. Counseling helped me so much. One-on-one talk therapy with somebody who could help me sort out my feelings and help me find in my personal history instances where I had exhibited strength in trials. That was a really key thing to helping me feel okay about what I was going through. So Cedric is almost 2. This little baby is going to be here in 3 weeks. we don't know if we're going to be able to have any more kids because we never really found out why we couldn't have kids for a while, and then why we had 3 miscarriages in a row. We're going to take whatever kids come to us. People still ask me, how many kids do you want? And I'm like, we're going to do our best. But I have learned that to be happy with what you have to realize that unhappy things are going to happen, and you manage them in great ways. And it's easy for somebody listening who doesn't have any kids to say, yeah, but then she got pregnant and that really helped her get over it. And to a certain extent, the new pregnancy definitely took my mind off of the losses, but it doesn't take the losses away. It helps you put everything into perspective, and I needed help with my perspective. Now, the second truth about happy people is that they serve others. They look outside of themselves. And I was blessed to be assigned a responsibility with an organization called Just Serve. I was voluntold to be a volunteer for it. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we don't have paid clergy. We have assignments. Callings is the colloquial term for them. And so sometimes, your neighbor is the Sunday school teacher, and his wife handles the service projects, and the accountant in the building, or in the church community, does the community outreach projects, and his wife does the social activities. Everyone just has different assignments. And so I was assigned to help with Just Serve, which is a national organization that is parented, sponsored by the church, to connect people to service projects in the community, not just within the church. And I have loved this. And this has been my new level of therapy, because I've stopped going to therapy, but I've got this now. One of my favorite quotes that connects these thoughts all together is from a man named Gordon B. Hinckley, who was the president and prophet of the church when I was growing up. And he said, "The best antidote for worry is work. The best medicine for despair is service. The best cure for weariness is to help someone even more tired." And of course, the Savior in Acts 10:38 is recorded clearly. He went about doing good. That's what he did. And so Just Serve has been my balm of Gilead. It's been my antidote for worry and best cure for despair. For those who don't know what it is, justserve.org. It's a website and an app. I describe it like a classifieds ads section for service. You go online, you type in your zip code, or you type in like, I want to volunteer from home. And these opportunities just pop up in these little boxes. And they're all over the board. Like there's faith, nonprofit, community, government, service groups, blood drives, park cleanups, clothing donations, food pantries. If there's refugees in town, there's almost always a project with that. School support, crafting, career advice, hurricane relief if that's in your area, meal prep, landscaping. What else? English as a second language, walking dogs, sporting events. I mean, we try to put everything on there to reach a large group of people. And you just sign in and create an account with your email, and you see an opportunity that you like, you click sign up, and it helps you connect with others in your community who are motivated to serve and do things. And I have loved the years that I've been working with Just Serve, and I've really enjoyed chatting with Elizabeth Crapo about survivors and putting survivors on Just Serve, since it's a national organization too. And so for those who are watching from the survivor's point of view, I encourage you to get on Just Serve, because your projects and service opportunities will appear on that website. And we have a plan to make it a pretty large presence and try to get more people associated with survivors and get survivors associated with Just Serve, because I know service is near and dear to your hearts as it is to mine. And so that's been just a wonderful thing that's come from our friendship and connection, that will hopefully benefit others, because the truth about happy people is that they serve others and they're not happy in every single way, but they manage it. And one way that I've learned to manage it is by serving others and looking out, just like Jesus Christ did. So I'm going to close by reading that Gordon B. Hinckley quote one more time. He said, the best antidote for worry is work. The best medicine for despair is service. The best cure for weariness is to help someone even more tired. And this man exemplified that, and the Savior exemplified that. And God help me, I will try to exemplify that as well in my life. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my story. And you're welcome to send me a Facebook or Twitter message with any questions, or share your story with me too, because I love hearing them as well.
Thank you, Brenda. Oh, I've learned so much more about you, and so grateful to be able to know you and call you my friend, and look forward to continuing that relationship. I love so many things that you said. I think is very poignant that everybody has their things that are hard. It may look very, very much different than you, but I feel like, well, I know that we're all here on earth to go through these mortal experiences to learn and to grow. So if we didn't have the conflict, there wouldn't be growth. And so we certainly need to be gentle on others,
Yeah.
as we don't know what might be actually weighing very heavy on their hearts, and just treat everybody. I see this on Facebook sometimes, treat everybody like they're going through something hard, because they are, and of course the whole service piece. I after the loss of my daughter, it's like I felt this need to want to continue to nurture her. She was 20 months old, and I couldn't do that physically anymore. And so, but I felt her with me sometimes, and I felt her watching, and I decided that I can't give her anything physically, but I can still nurture her by putting a smile on her face. And so on that first birthday after her passing, we found service, and there was such a peace that day that came with me. And not to say that there weren't moments of hard, and I, by all means, everybody needs to feel the feelings that they're feeling when they need to feel them. But it's just, don't build a residence there. It's like, okay, I now need to step up and step out. And anyway, so thank you. Yeah. So I was gonna shoot, my question lost, but anyway, yeah. So this month's service project, I'll just tell everybody, I've been trying to get it on Just Serve, but there was an error that happened. And anyway, so I'm going to continue to try to get more of our survivor projects out there. And if you would like one in your community, please let us know. Reach out. We know how to help you with that. But the whole point, like I said before, with survivors is we're a community. We've all felt loss of all kinds, infertility, miscarriage, child loss, spouse, losing a spouse, to anything, and siblings. We just all experience that. And there is such an amazing community of connection that comes, like Brenda just shared. Yeah. When you are vulnerable and you put yourself out there, and then other people see that, and that is where real connection starts to happen, I feel. And
I was never so happy to be proven wrong. Everybody posts the best of their stuff on Facebook when you're sitting in like a Sunday school, or like a book group or something. Everybody raises their hands and says like the best experience ever that they've had with this, or, and to be the one in the room to start saying, well, I really struggle with this. And somebody else goes, yeah, I really hate that too,
mm-hmm.
Or in a living room conversation or dining room conversation, having women and men open up about what sucks and what's hard and what they're grappling with. I was so grateful to suddenly find a community of people who are weak too.
Yeah. We all are. We all have those moments of, I can't do this by myself anymore. And, just the blessing that came from just reaching out to someone else that was going through something similar. Survivors came of that. That's how we started, is just, I felt this, my heart breaking when I saw another mom losing her daughter. And I reached out, and anyway, slowly but surely we were able to come up with survivors. And what joy within each other, that when we're having our worst of worst, that we can reach out to someone in the community and say, today's hard. So thank you for Brenda now being a part of our survivors community. And yeah, so this month's project, I started to say, we are collecting bereavement child books. So there's an Amazon wish list. You can go on, it's the pin post on our survivors page. And it can show you, if you find books in thrift shops or, your libraries or wherever that you have these books that you can mail to. It goes to this nonprofit called Be Kind Like Ollie. And her, Ollie's mom started the nonprofit because Ollie passed away. And she wanted to provide more grief services for people because she felt a huge lack in her area, and not just hers, but many areas. And so we want to provide some grief books for kids and anyone really that is struggling with and needs to work through that grief. That's very helpful for children, especially, to read in a book that they're not alone. So anyway, please participate in that. And thanks again, Brenda, for joining us tonight.
So welcome.
I just so honored for you to have joined us. And please reach out, survivors community, and look forward to starting a relationship. So thank you, everybody.
Mwah.
Mwah. Bye-bye.